Thursday, May 23rd, and we're still waiting for some of our members of the council to arrive. So I will hold off making a roll call at this moment, but go straight to public comment. Anyone who has a comment, anyone from the public who has a comment, something other than what is on the agenda, you may have up to 2 minutes to speak. And first, I should check and see if people have copies of the agenda. Does everyone have access to the agenda and know what's on the agenda tonight? Okay. So is there anyone who has something they would like to say? Everyone's here for something on the agenda. Great. Okay. Well, I am Laura Kaplan, the chair of the North Fair Oaks Council.
Manuel Ramirez.
And that's the two of us who are here tonight. So far, I know we have an excused absence from John Schott and S.B. Vasquez. So we're still expecting 2 more members tonight. We'll go ahead and proceed to the supervisor's report. Supervisor Warren Slocum is here this evening.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Welcome, everybody. This is being broadcast tonight on Peninsula Television at some later point in time, and also on YouTube and Vimeo. If you're so inclined, you could check it out at www.pentv.tv, I believe, or of course the North Fair Oaks community website. A couple of things I wanted to share with you tonight that probably the biggest news, even though it may seem not that big to some, was that just this week, I think it was this week, that the wires and the poles along the railroad corridor that had been abandoned and hanging down on the sidewalks for so long by TE Connectivity over there. Drove by there the other day, pleased to report to you that the poles are all gone, and hence the wires are all gone too. And I think that's been a lot of years in the making. And certainly thanks to my staff, Marcy Dragan, who helped make that happen, and also to Caltrain and their cooperation in making that happen. We actually thought they were just going to cut the wires and get them off the sidewalk, but actually they took out the poles and everything, which really makes that area look a lot better. So appreciate everybody's cooperation on that. As you all know, there was a fire that occurred here last week or the week before at 644 Oakside Avenue, and it forced many people. There were some reports of 100 people that were displaced because of that fire. And I was really proud of the way the county handled the response in terms of the housing department, the human services department, the Red Cross, the sheriff's department, the police department, county fire, Menlo Park Fire District, Redwood City Fire, and the community school coordinators at Fair Oaks School really all came together and made that probably as good as it could have been, considering the devastation that occurred, and especially for those young kids that live there. To have lost everything is quite a shock in one's life. Pleased to say that this coming Tuesday, the temporary housing for those families was running out. They're in a motel. Some of the folks are in a motel up on El Camino. And this afternoon, Irving Torres of my staff, attended a meeting where several people were talking about how we could help those fire victims. And actually the thing that Irving got done this afternoon was he got a 1-week extension for the families that are still in the motel. So that was really good news, and appreciate Irving's help on that. You may not know, but one of my office's initiatives, this may sound a little strange, but was to create a San Mateo County Poet Laureate. And for those of you that don't know, I really enjoy poetry, and especially Billy Collins. And the board actually voted to create a county poet laureate. And in October, we're having a application period, which is going to open up shortly. It'll be on the county's website. Local poets will apply. We'll have a committee to judge. And then in October, we'll actually select the poet laureate for the county who will serve 2 years. And that person will travel to schools and encourage kids, not only in poetry, but reading and literacy arts and so forth and so on, and do some other special things. So we'll keep you informed later as that unfolds, and you're certainly welcome to apply if either of you are poets. There was I think yesterday or today, I'm not sure, the county's First Five program gave between $100,000 and $200,000 in a grant to Sequoia Adult School, which is they're going to provide a program for early learning and support program for parents and children ages 0 to 3. It's going to be free, it's going to be bilingual, and they're going to try to reach the highest need families. And that's really good news, I think, for the community. So that grant is actually will run from 2013 through 2015. Let's see. Irving's been working a lot with the Fair Oaks Community School Coordinators. And our idea is that we have office hours here on Wednesday nights from 5 to 7. And we're going to try every other week to rotate to a different school, the idea being that parents come to those schools for parent classes and obviously for their kids. And so we're basically going to take the supervisor's office to a different school every other week and see if we can engage more voices in the conversation about North Fair Oaks and the community plan and the work of the council. And we'll report back on the progress in that area, but we're actually going to take it on the road and try to go where people are actually gathering as opposed to asking them to come here. And of course, for some, that's a hardship because of transportation and childcare and other issues. Of course, there's the big Be Seen, Keeping It Clean event, which I know you're going to talk about, so I will hold off on that. And that's the extent of my report for this month. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have, as long as they're not too difficult.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions for the supervisor right now? Actually, so Supervisor, I just want to thank you actually for all the things that you're doing
Welcome.
in North Fair Oaks, especially you know how adamant I was about those wires.
I remember.
So for that, special thanks for me for doing that.
You're very welcome.
Getting that done. Thank you very
For
much.
those of you that don't know, actually the first day after I was elected in November, Manuel took me in his car, drove me around North Fair Oaks, and showed me all the problem areas. And the first stop was those poles and those wires that I talked to you about earlier. So it's taken 4 or 5 months, whatever it's been, but I'm very pleased to have gotten that done. And thank you for the time that you gave to me and my staff. It's appreciated.
No, absolutely. Yeah, it's been a lot more than 5 months, so you got it done in 5 months, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And just so everyone knows who is here, in case you haven't been here to one of our meetings before, this is the first time we've been up here. It feels very strange to be on stage and not down there next to you. But in any case, this is part of the change in the direction that Supervisor Slocum has initiated to try to get the word out and greater community involvement by putting these meetings on televised format and able to, so that they can be viewed by larger numbers of people who can then get involved even if they don't want to attend the meetings. So it's awkward for us, but it's a good thing. And now
we will adjust to it.
And now we are
The
joined.
The reason that you're up there is because it was a requirement of the TV camera. It wasn't
Right, okay.
Anything secret about it, it's just they can get a better shot.
Okay, so Supervisor is saying that it's not because we're actually up here because we're better than you, is that what you meant to say? It's because it's a better angle for the TV camera, okay, thank you.
I think we look good, better for the camera this way. Okay, thank you.
And that's the whole goal, right? So we're now joined by Beatriz, and are you sitting in front of the right name tag here?
Hello? Yes, yes.
I don't know. All right, so now we have time for council member reports. Any reports of items not on the agenda by various council members?
Yeah, I have
Go
a
ahead.
number, okay. So I, first thing I have to share with you was the festival fundraiser that we had here at the parking lot right here in between this building and the library on the 28th. It was a very successful event that we had. We had we estimated between 1,000 and 1,400 people that attended. And like I said, this was to raise funds for the North Fair Oaks Library. Right now, we're still waiting for all the money to come in that was pledged, but so far it's looking very good. It looks like we're gonna have over $15,000. And all that money will be dedicated for iPads and computers to upgrade the computer center that they have, because a lot of those computers are pretty old. So we're pretty happy and pleased about that. And once we purchase those computers and iPads, we'll invite everybody to come over for a ceremony when we present those. So that's item number one. My item number two is going to be about the wires and thanking Supervisor Slocum for getting rid of those wires. So thank you very much, Supervisor. My item number three is the Fair Oaks cleanup event that we are having on June 1st. We had a meeting on May 21st. The committee that is working on putting together the event. At the meeting was Supervisor Slocum, Irving Torres, Gino Gasparini from Recology, Terry Chin from the North Fair Oaks Community Center, Connie Paniagua from San Mateo Credit Union, Lillian Clark from San Mateo Public Works, Wayman Wong from San Mateo Health and Human Services. So we discussed the logistics of what is going to happen at the event, and it looks like we have everything set up and ready to go for the event. We are going to have a number of community groups that will be joining us. We are expecting anywhere from 150 to 200 people. The event will start at 8 o'clock, and some of the group captains will show up at 7:30 for a briefing about what's going to happen during the day. The supplies that we're going to have been donated by the San Mateo Health and Human Services, Public Works, San Mateo Credit Union. There will be a light breakfast at the beginning, and for all the attendants, some donuts, probably some light fruit or stuff like that. And then we will end it at 12, and we'll have a lunch. The lunch will be provided by the El Griense Taqueria, and this is the one actually that is in Palo Alto, not here in North Fair Oaks, but the owners live in North Fair Oaks. So they were very happy to help us on that. So they will be donating the lunch for all the attendants. Just want to give a thanks to Irving, who has been the person in charge of putting the whole thing together. I mean, pretty much, he's done all the legwork. And Irving and I have visited a lot of the the businesses along Middlefield and gone door to door to talk to people to ask them to help us promote the event. We've gotten a very reception for that. So I think we will have a very successful event. So everybody is welcome June 1st. So that's, so now my fifth item here, it's the fire at 636 Oakside North Fair Oaks. I lived right behind those apartments, so it was very, close, and it definitely touched me. It happened right around 5 a.m. I heard all the commotion at that time. I was already awake. And, then later we find out that it was a pretty large fire, and I didn't go to see it at the time. I figured I'd be in somebody's way that was working there, trying to put out the fire. But I did have a chance to go at the end of the day after I came back from work, and I talked to a lot of the families, or some of the families that were displaced. I also talked to the representatives of the Red Cross, who informed me that most of the people that were directly affected on the apartment building 636 had already been placed in hotels around, local hotels around the area. So it was pretty amazing. It's a pretty devastating fire, because all these people lost absolutely everything. A little earlier, I was with Irving at the meeting that we had with people from the Salvation Army, American Red Cross, and we were talking about all the different things that these people need. And they have done a great job already of helping them to get clothes, and apparently people have donated a lot of clothes and some money. The challenge will be next is to get them in a place to live again permanently, finding an apartment, because it's pretty hard right now to get them into a place. Apparently there's not a lot of apartments available. So we're gonna have, at this meeting, we decided that there will be another meeting with the families next week that will be announced exactly on what day. It wasn't set up yet, because they need to talk to the families to ask them directly what else they need. So today, I would like to make a challenge to the North Fair Oaks Council and maybe the supervisor to see if we can do a fundraiser event for these families. And I think at this point, the main thing that they need is money to get them back on their feet. And with that, I will pledge myself $250 to start the fundraiser. And that is my report. Sorry, it's a little long. Thank you.
We're in.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Manuel. And so if you say you're in, then that probably is something that falls to Irving to follow up in terms of organizing such a fundraiser, the two of you
Actually, yeah,
perhaps? Have you talked
I will,
about that?
this is maybe a little bit of news for some of you. So I will ask, hopefully, Irving, if he can help me to organize that fundraiser, and then we'll pass the word along once we decide how we're gonna do that. All right, thank you.
Beatriz.
Yes. I work at Fair Oaks School. So I was there at the day that the fire happened. And I was really amazed at the wonderful response, the rapid response from a whole entity of different agencies and departments that descended on the school. We calmly regrouped to try to understand the situation, and we let the people who came to our school do what they needed to do. We are, as Manuel said, we are keeping, they're keeping us informed at what the next steps are, and at this point, lodging, some type of permanent home for these families that have been displaced. That's going to be the next challenge. So yes, we need to come together to promote this fundraiser, because it will be the next step that these families will need support with. Second, I attended the parking meeting, the community meeting that was held at Fair Oaks School multipurpose room, end of April. There were not a lot of community parents there because it conflicted with another event that was happening with the parents at the school. Although we did, those of us that were there, we went around to different tables looking at different situations, and we were allowed to comment on the different aspects of the different type of parking situations that could happen in our area. And then we had a share out at the end of the meeting. Another meeting is programmed. I'm not exactly sure when. I also went to another meeting on zoning. It's the second Tuesday of the month here in the community center. We had some homework of reading up on different scenarios for this region. But again, lots of comments of real situations, needing more background information, studying what's available, trying to understand things that are given to us. Basically, that's what the general comments that were made at that meeting. This is real new for me, so it is difficult for me sometimes to understand what is said. I have to take time to reread and redigest and try to understand what the questions from the people attending these meetings are about. But I'm doing my best, and I'm here to report and give a share out from what I attend and what I understand.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will just comment, I was also going to mention that meeting. The background on that, the overview, if you will, is the North Fair Oaks Plan, which was finalized and passed at the end of 2011, I think, or 2000. Anyway, it's passed. We've got the North Fair Oaks Plan guiding future of planning for the county, and especially will affect the unincorporated areas. And out of that plan have come 4 work groups. So one is based around, they've chosen 4 topics to address. One is zoning, one is parks, one is parking, and one is just communication. How are we going to communicate and involve people in the community in the process? So the groups have started to meet, and the meeting that Beatriz is referring to is the one on zoning, which the next meeting, if anyone is interested, is going to take place Tuesday, June 4th from 6 to 8 p.m. here at the Fair Oaks Community Center. And we really do recommend that people who care about their community get involved and show up to participate. Zoning doesn't sound like the most exciting thing, but ultimately it has a big impact on how our community evolves. So with that, I have no other reports, so I will proceed to the sheriff's report from Lieutenant Reed.
Good evening, council members, supervisor. Wow, that's on. Again, I don't have the stats and everything. I talked to when I was here in April, and we'll do those quarterly. I'll bring those to the meeting. Just want to talk about a couple things that are going on from now through the end of the summer. The gang task force will be out. And the gang task force works Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights. It's a two-team approach. Cops from all over the county come in, and they split the county in half, north and south, and they work in different areas every night. And so the south team will come down, and one night they'll be in Redwood, and then they'll be in East Valley, and then they'll maybe go over to Menlo, and they'll be moving around. But that's going to go every week all the way through September, 4 nights a week. We'll have the gang task force out. So if you see additional cars, or you see a whole bunch of cops dressed in their pajamas and stuff like that, it's probably the gang task force guys out doing their thing. And then at the end of that, we'll be able to hopefully report some numbers out on some good arrests and stuff like that. The only other thing I wanted to talk about, actually, 2 more things, I'm sorry. One is, we're doing a lot better, actually, here in the North Fair Oaks area. Our burglaries are down a little bit, better than in the City of Good Living, which in San Carlos, which had 3 last night. But we're winning a little bit. I think the word's getting out. I think people are getting real good about locking their doors, locking their windows, being smart, seeing somebody in their neighborhood that they don't recognize, they give us a call. Having said that, the warm weather's coming, summer's coming, and it's going to start warming up. And it's going to be, I got to leave my window open. When I go to work, I come home, the house is too hot, something like that. A lot of these windows, I know a lot of these are older homes, but newer windows you can lock to where they only open a little bit. Those are great windows. Try to come up with something, the bars on the sliding windows, things like that. That's going to put the kibosh on these guys. They're not going to work hard to get into these houses. In and out is what they want. Quiet is what they want. So we're doing well on that. And then also, the sheriff's office started some massage parlor enforcement down here in the North Fair Oaks area, and currently 4 of the massage parlors are closed due to license suspensions. Their suspensions range from, I think it's 6 or 7 days to about 14 days for those. And then we're going to continue that enforcement and continue the inspections on those. And that's all I have, council. Is there you have any questions for me or anything? Ms.
Any
Davis?
questions?
I have a question about Christos and what exactly they plan to do with respect to his data and allegations.
I'm sorry, whom?
He's a Yale professor who had a very interesting idea about drafting out gang problems. And apparently there are a bunch of things in East Palo Alto. And since there are a lot of gang members who go Pharaohs, I wondered if you had been involved in any of those discussions. If so, what was happening?
I have not been, nor do I believe that the sheriff's office has been involved in any of those discussions. I did read an article about that gentleman. If I'm not mistaken, he's been hired by the city of East Palo Alto, or he's working with the city of East Palo Alto on their problem, but I don't believe that there's been any connection. I'm sure he's working with the gang intelligence unit here in the San Mateo County Gang Intelligence Unit to.
Sounds like a very interesting project.
Yes, ma'am. Again, we've had no connection to him that I'm aware of.
Any other questions? Thank you, Lieutenant Reed. Oh,
Actually, I have a
oops, one more.
question.
Yes, sir.
So, regarding the fire,
Yes, sir.
so it looks like it was arson, from the reports that I've heard.
I probably would not comment on an ongoing investigation.
Okay.
Sir.
So,
I
alright.
know that we're investigating it. I mean, any fire like that, we always investigate as an arson until we can prove that it's not.
Just in general, I mean, do you have any leads on that at all, or no? Okay. Okay, that's fine, no problem.
All right,
Thanks.
sir.
Appreciate it, yeah.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Yes, ma'am.
On the agenda, we had a report from the California Highway Patrol. However, Captain Maskrich has been called away, so we'll skip that for this month and proceed to the regular agenda.
Actually, can I comment a little bit on that? Because I was looking forward to his report. Because I saw, you know, how we've been having problems with illegal dumping. Not this Saturday, but the one before that. I saw that the CHP had caught someone doing illegal dumping off of the off-ramp from 101 onto Woodside Road, right underneath that. So I know they had someone there that had a truck with the lift open and, had dumped stuff. So I'm definitely looking forward to see what happened with that, because I think that's one of the things that we've been hoping that, we start catching some of those guys, so.
Right, I know
Yeah,
we were also hoping on the cleanup day to help educate people about getting out and participating in noticing these kinds of things, being the eyes and ears, taking photos if necessary, and reporting if you see illegal dumping. That's an important message we want to get out to the community, that it's not just about picking up trash, but making sure that we follow up on these problems in a bigger
Yeah.
picture way. Okay, so I will suggest we move on then to, we have a presentation on the CSA 8 budget, and we have Ann Stillman from Public Works and Peggy Jensen from the County Manager's Office. By the way, while they're getting ready, I'll just comment that we would normally approve our minutes, but we
don't
moved
have a
that
quorum,
to, yeah, we don't have a quorum, but we also moved those things to another meeting because we had two big reports tonight. We wanted to move time on the agenda.
All right, I don't know, well, I'm Ann Stillman, I'm with the County of San Mateo Department of Public Works. I'm a deputy director in Public Works, and the division I have is Engineering and Resource Protection. One of the sections I have is the Waste Management section. And the Waste Management section is responsible for the CSA 8, or County Service Area Number 8 Special District. And I don't know how well people can see what. I know we've got a flag, we've got all sorts of things going on here. But what you did receive with the packet, the agenda in the packet, was a report. There was an executive summary, so a shortened version. There was a longer version, and then there were 3 different attachments to it. So I'm sort of duplicating some of the attachments here, and then thought I would just walk through the report with you here tonight. So it's my understanding that there was a request to hear a little bit about CSA 8 and some background information about the County Service Area Number 8. So one of the things I did include in the packet was a letter that was from our previous Director of Public Works, Neil Cullen. He wrote a letter to actually Dale Miller, who I think was the chair at the time, in March of 2002. And I think the request at that time was somewhat similar, which was explain to us a little bit more about CSA 8, how it was formed, some background, and the finances of it, and taking steps looking forward to what can we do if there's excess revenue in CSA 8. I felt it was appropriate to attach that because things haven't changed that much. A lot of those issues are still there in terms of protocol and process, so I thought it was important to put it in place. I recognize that there are some new council members now, about 11 years later. So to put that in the packet I thought was valuable. I did revisit a lot of his points in the work that was, the memo that was put together, and then work to update and bring some more current cost information and current services and the LAFCO review, et cetera, that have happened more recently. CSA 8. So originally, County Service Area Number 8 was formed in 1972 in November. And the area that was comprised, that CSA comprised of, was this sort of gray area in the upper part of this map. And I guess a distinguishing factor is that the spur line, the Dumbarton spur line, runs through. So, North Fair Oaks is sort of has the benefit of the spur line running through, kind of distinguishes the two areas when you think about an active spur line, an active railroad line, and the fact that when emergency response is needing to take place, depending on where it's coming from, that's an important thing to consider. So originally, this is what CSA 8 looked like. It was this gray area in the upper part of the map. I feel but I'm hearing all the different things going on in this room. There was a previous fire protection district, the Dumbarton Fire Protection District, that existed at the time. And when the County Service Area 8 was formed and the previous fire protection district essentially went away, there was a property tax allocation that transferred to the County Service Area number 8. So in other words, the properties in the northern part of, or the upper part of this map were paying for fire protection services as a percentage of the 1% property tax. So when the change occurred and this area became CSA 8, that basically transferred over and became the revenue source to support the fire protection services in that gray area right there. The next thing that occurred was that there was a need to take a look at garbage, so the refuse, the garbage collection, and to be able to create a mechanism to have franchise agreements and enforce or require that people have their garbage collected. So the next thing that the Board of Supervisors did was about 10 years later, in 1982, they expanded the powers of CSA number 8 to include not only fire protection, but also the collection of garbage in this particular area. A little bit later, in 1982, this remaining area, the red hatched area, was also included or annexed into or may become a part of County Service Area number 8. The difference, this whole area is used for garbage and refuse, so that's one of the powers of the County Service Area number 8. But this red area that was brought in has fire protection provided by the Menlo Park Fire Protection District. So that's a distinguishing factor. There's a percentage of the property tax revenue collected in this area. It's approximately 16% of the 1% of the property tax that goes off to Menlo Park Fire Protection District. And in this area, it's approximately the same percentage, about 16% of the 1% that goes to support County Service Area number 8 and the activities of that. One of the things that occurred was in 1997, there was a contract between the County of San Mateo and the City of Redwood City to provide fire protection in this particular area. And what happened was the property tax revenue that was collected was more essentially than what the fire contract needed to support the services. So there became a situation where there was excess revenue. The revenue from the property tax was a bit more than what was being paid to City of Redwood City to provide fire protection. And so there was a process that the community and the board went through to come up with recommendations or ways to seek prioritization of funding different things with this excess property tax revenue. In 2007, there was another agreement that was executed between the county and the City of Redwood City just before the last contract expired, and that was structured a little bit differently. That agreement stipulates, we're in that right now, that agreement is a 15-year agreement. It expires in 2022, and the agreement stipulates that City of Redwood City will be paid 32% of the 16% of the 1% of the property tax revenue that's collected in this area. So this area's property tax revenue for CSA 8 and 32% of that that's earmarked for CSA 8 or comes to CSA 8 is paid to City of Redwood City to pay for fire protection. The way I see it is the two contracts were different. One of them, the prior one, required a lot of administrative work to keep track of the number of calls and the response time, et cetera. And I think when the new agreement was executed, it seemed like it was a fair way to compensate the city in similar dollar values as they had been compensated previously, but it really made the accounting side of how they respond and how quickly they respond based on the old agreement kind of not be as difficult to manage. So that was that's the current agreement that we are living with today. And it creates the same situation that the prior agreement had, which is that there's that excess property tax revenue.
I'm sorry, are you saying that the services for fire protection that are provided to the northern part by Redwood City are less expensive than the fire protection services provided to the red part of the map by Menlo Park Fire Service area?
What I am saying is that in both areas, approximately the same percentage heads to, 16% goes to Menlo Park Fire Protection District to provide service. How they account for those dollar values and where they spend it, I can't answer that question. With the other part, the gray part, 16% goes to CSA 8, but 32% of that is paid to the city of Redwood City.
And on the lower part, 16%.
Percent goes to the Menlo Park Fire Protection District, but how they account for, I'm
So in other words, we pay more more to Menlo Park for what they do than for the same.
I would say that you pay the same percentage goes to each entity or special district, but how it's spent is a different
Okay,
mechanism.
what is I don't understand the 16 and the 32%. Does that mean that it's going to go up to 32% or how?
No, and so in the packet, I provided some information about the LAFCO report, and it includes where does your property tax go, basically,
Right.
and shows the difference between CSA 8 and Menlo Park Fire Protection District. And I guess all I'm trying to say is that of the money that's collected for CSA 8 in this area,
Yeah.
32% of that is paid to the city of Redwood City based on the contract that was executed in 2007. Does that make sense? I mean, you have to look.
But-
I know this is really small, and I
Yeah.
know that property tax revenue gets to be, it's a different animal, but the money that you pay, and you'll find it in your packet, if you were to take a look at the sheet that looks like this,
Yeah.
you would see that of your property tax monies, property tax you pay, some goes to the county general fund, the library, the school districts, sewer districts, the Mid-Peninsula Open Space, et cetera. And when you line up the fire pieces, you'll see that the
Okay, so
percentage
it's
is
the-
essentially the same.
Okay.
But the other part is getting 16, not just 32 of 16, but all of 16.
That's right.
So it sounds like it's more expensive.
Well,
That's what I'm asking.
I know, but I think unless you were to look at where they spend their time, I mean, you'd have to look at that analysis, right?
Right, but what they're charging us,
Yeah.
I mean, saying
What they
us.
receive based on the property tax rates that were set prior to Proposition 13,
right.
which doesn't now change, you can see how the percentages go, and now you understand what it looks like in the CSA 8 boundaries, within the CSA 8 boundaries. I think, as I mentioned before, the Department of Public Works administers the CSA 8 budget, so that's our responsibility. We also track or differentiate between revenue from the garbage charges versus the property tax revenue from the basically CSA 8. So they are differentiated because they're two different sorts of activities. In the LAFCO report, so LAFCO recently, January 2011, studied Redwood City and special districts surrounding Redwood City and came up with a list of active services. And their evaluation is, taking a look at what has the special district or CSA been working on and looking at the cost accounting. And they came up with a list which I've replicated. Oh, but it's sideways, so that's not going to work very well. Okay. Okay, rip it out. It's in your board packet too, or in your council packet. I'm just going to do it. And that's okay. So, no, yeah. That's okay. So that you will see that the active services that they've listed is, like we talked about, the fire protection. So that's a basic service of CSA 8. Community policing, that's an activity that was discussed and recommended by the council a long time ago. Fair Oaks Community Center, where we are right now. And I think part of what the Board of Supervisors has looked at is the benefit that is provided by paying for or having CSA 8 funds pay for these services. This community center benefits CSA 8 residents and others, so there's a contribution made from CSA 8. There's funding that's used for graffiti abatement. That was something that was certainly brought up by the council in the past. There are ongoing playground maintenance expenses at the Garfield School, because that's another activity that was requested and supported in the past in terms of the rebuilding of the fields, and then CSA 8 helps pay for the maintenance, ongoing maintenance of the Garfield School fields. And then what this table, which is in your packet, also is demonstrating is the dollar values in fiscal year 11-12. These are showing you actual expenses and actual revenue, so that you can see the total expenditures in CSA 8 was about $802,000. The property tax revenue received in that particular year was $743,000 essentially, which on an annual basis gets you down to a situation where we're spending more on these services than we're bringing in property tax revenue. So those are essentially what I listed there were really the active services that you'll see in the LAFCO report, but then I assigned dollar values with them so that you could see how that came down. In terms of the garbage activities, as I was mentioning, CSA 8, two main purposes of CSA 8 is for the fire protection and the garbage collection. Both of those revenue sources are received twice a year, April and December. So we do have to make sure that we've got sufficient fund balance to carry us through so we can pay for fire and we can pay for garbage. You don't see your CSA 8 charge on your property tax bill because it's part of the 1%. You do see your garbage charges levied on your property tax bill, so you will see that. And as you probably are aware, where this area is franchised and Recology is the current provider, so we collect the revenue on the property tax bill and then we pay Recology to provide that service to everybody. The report also went into where we stood in terms of the fund balance for CSA 8. It was approximately $4 million at the end of fiscal year 11-12, and we also differentiated between the balance in the fire subzone or the gray area versus the fund balance in terms of garbage for the whole entire area. The board does approve the budget, the CS 8 budget, on an annual basis, and as I also mentioned, they're taking a look at the benefits of additional services that are currently being provided, like the list shows, and would certainly be considering if there are additional services that needed to be provided. In the report, I also listed things that had been financed or paid for out of the CSA 8 property tax revenue for years. I mean, so there's a long laundry list of, there's been improvements, like I said, at Garfield School and Taft School. There's been some drainage improvements. There was money put towards some of the Middlefield Road, the street trees, the furniture, and then the ongoing maintenance of those trees. But there's a list of things that have been approved in the past by the board. So it's my understanding, too, that sort of looking at where the council's been in terms of evaluating CSA 8 and what additional services may be recommended and where you may be going, it would really be looking at the same sort of principle in terms of North Fair Oaks Council, getting community input, understanding what are the needs of the community, are there additional services or activities that would be recommended. We would also think it would make a lot of sense to be speaking early on with Supervisor Slocum and his staff to understand whether what you're looking at may be in alignment with what the supervisor's office is looking at. The LAFCO report did identify that if the CSA were to look for expanding powers or do new programs, more activities, the Board of Supervisors would have to apply to LAFCO for some sort of an expansion of service. And then LAFCO would be evaluating, I think, the benefits to CSA 8 as a whole, and also the benefits to the CSA 8 area where the property tax revenue is generated. I think in the report too, as I was pointing out, on an annual basis, we're in deficit mode. There may be, potentially a one-time thing, one-time project may make more sense than continuing in deficit mode or making that worse on an annual basis, because eventually you get to the place where there wouldn't be money to support that kind of activity. I think that was part of what you're looking for. You might have some questions. I'll put the map back up because the map is more fun than words. Do you have any questions?
I'll let the public, and then I'll ask my questions.
Okay. Yes.
This report looks like it was thrown together in 5 minutes. I think it's totally incompetent, and I think rather than this report, which is very credible in many aspects, we need an audited accounting of where the money's gone. There are some things in this report, I sent you a memo earlier on this afternoon, it's just not credible. I'm going through some of the things, garbage collection, that's not credible. The playground maintenance at Garfield School, speak of playground, park, picnic grounds, there's no such thing. Graffiti abatement, under ordinances, that is covered by the property owner.
Should we go through these things one at a time, or, because I don't think I'm going to remember your list.
There are many problems to deal with in this meeting, but I think you're very poorly prepared, and I think this does a disservice to the North Fairlands Council, and this report is incompetent.
So I think what I explained to you at the beginning was,
I don't need you to explain
Oh.
anything, and I understand that. I just think you've done a poor job.
but I don't think, well, I don't know that LAFCO is part of the discussion, because LAFCO certainly, the LAFCO report, the one from 2011, is something that is new to the discussion that didn't exist in 2002. And I think, as I told you before, a lot of the process, policies, procedures, administration today in 2013 are very similar to 2002. So I thought it was important to restate and update and include the attachment, especially for the benefit, well, of the public, but also for the council, so that they can understand that we've been through a similar discussion in the past, and this is what people have been told, and this is the type of information. You have a difference of opinion, that's sure. Right. And when we talk about graffiti, the ordinance code, San Mateo County Ordinance Code speaks to graffiti abatement. It speaks to graffiti on private property and public property. So our graffiti abatement, the work we do and pay for out of CSA 8 funds, is from what's on public property. I know we've had discussions recently about graffiti on private property, and we've given our response based on the ordinance code. Let's see, garbage. Garbage, I think I mentioned about how we collect, how we set the rates. We have to set the rates to support what it is that Recology is going to require that we pay to provide the level of service to CSA 8. That's how we go through the rate setting process, and then that's how we levy the charges on the property tax bill. So that's the garbage piece. I'm trying to remember what else. Oh, all the activities that you had listed. I think I told you too that some of the activities are work or programs that have been supported by CSA 8 in the past, but also we talked about the active list of powers or the active work that's being done now, and the list isn't as long as the one that was shown in the memo. So that's a difference too.
At a very basic level, people need to understand what the property tax is that comes in from North Narrow, and then they can assess the 1%, the 16%, all the rest of it. They need to know exactly what is being done done at Garfield School? Where is these wonderful picnic grounds that don't exist?
Right, I think the picnic grounds was an expense in the past that was supported by the council. That's not what, I mean, oh, there we go. The, now the ongoing maintenance is a contract that we have with the city of Redwood City to provide landscaping service for Garfield School. So it's, but that's what I was trying to explain, there's been, and that's what I think you see in the memo from, or the letter from Neil Cullen, which there's a memo, you can see the different activities that have taken place in different fiscal years. Based,
It's ancient history. What people need to see now is where you get the money, what you actually planning to spend it on, and what you have spent it on. A lot of these things in your report make absolutely no sense whatsoever.
right, and I think that the, just to say that the fiscal year 11-12 expenditures, or the expense account that we showed, does demonstrate what we've been doing recently. And as I also said, that those are the powers that were identified basically by LAFCO, and that's what, that would be what is included in the budget. When we talk about additional services, that's a process that the council, the community needs to go through if they're trying to identify additional services or additional work or programs to be provided to CSA 8. Did you have a question?
Is why you give ecology money if we pay a garbage bill? I'm confused about that. Why do they need money from you when we pay the bill?
Right, so Recology is the one that collects your garbage. We have a franchise agreement with them, and in essence, they need to be compensated for their work, for collecting the cans, for dealing with the waste, sorting it, disposing of it, dealing with the recyclables. But if you're in CSA 8 and you get your garbage levied on your property tax, we receive the revenue and we pay Recology for that. I mean, we don't collect your garbage, so you don't pay us to collect your garbage. We collect the revenue from the property owners, and then we pay that to Recology to provide the service to you.
But that's only in CSA area, so if you're outside of that area, you would be paying it directly to Recology, correct?
So we have, CSA 8 we have multiple areas that are within our franchised area. But you're right, that in CSA 8, we levy the garbage bill, or the charges on the property tax. In the other areas, yes, you would be paying directly. I think there had been a problem. The reason why they're levied on the property tax bill is in the past, I think there had been a problem with people either not having garbage service or undersubscribing. So there had been a problem of more litter, more debris, and that's why we went to the minimum level of service, which is 2 32-gallon cans or carts or 1 64-gallon cart
Right.
of garbage, of solid waste. And then you
So-
have your recyclable and your yard waste.
So we have minimum levels throughout, but you only get it levied on your property tax if you live in one of those areas. I think that was the confusion.
Right, I mean, there are
So-
other agencies that choose that route, but not all.
Right.
Actually, maybe to clarify a little bit, now the businesses, they get charged directly, I believe.
Right,
for
commercial.
rent, commercial, so they're not in the normal residential, I would say, right?
That's correct.
And I don't know if that's what she's referring
I
to.
own a business, I pay
Okay.
property taxes because I own the building, and I also pay a pretty hefty garbage bill.
Right,
But
to
that's separate.
Recology.
You're
It's a
not in
business.
that.
Yeah,
It's
a-
commercial.
we're
It's
talking
outside
about
of the area that
residential.
she's-
No, it's not outside, but she's on the
Like
business,
commercial?
on a business, a commercial side. And they don't get the regular bins that we get on the
Right.
residential side. So the businesses have to pay an additional charge for what they generate.
But they're
Yeah.
also not in that
The-
area.
Seems like the contract's in that.
Right, and yes, I agree. I have Recology too, and I see my bills continuing to escalate.
So are you basically paying a franchising fee, like if you buy McDonald's, you pay a franchising fee, is that what you're paying? Is that what this fee is?
Which fee are you talking about? I'm sorry.
You said that you pay Recology for their service.
So basically, in CSA 8, for the residential customers, instead of each residential customer being billed by Recology and paying them directly, we put the charges on the property tax bill because of the issues that have come up in the past with the level of service and undersubscribing, and because that had been an issue. And that's why we went to the minimum level of service, to try to keep, I mean, you probably know if people try to stuff too much in and then they can't put the top down and then you have wind and now all of a sudden you've got garbage everywhere. So minimum level of service, and then this is the easiest way for us to collect the charges too, because we're not going to do the billing.
When we collect property taxes in the county, or that is dedicated to garbage collection, that's a separate account. And it's kept separate from the property tax you pay to CSA 8. That separate account, we collect your money for your garbage collection, and then we pay your college for that. It doesn't affect homing or.
But we have to keep a separate accounting.
So residents are paying 1% of the property tax bill for garbage?
No, let's see. 1% of the property tax bill, no. So you're paying your property tax bill, which is 1% of your assessed value. And then when you come to the percentages, there's nothing that goes to garbage to support the garbage. Garbage is an enterprise activity. It really should be, people should be paying, it's just like a utility bill. You need to be paying your PG&E bill, your Comcast bill, water bill. It's really just a utility bill. So we don't collect property tax revenue to support garbage activities. And when the garbage part or the powers of CSA 8 were expanded, it was after Prop 13.2. There is no percentage of property tax that goes to support the garbage part of your service.
Property tax bill, you have a large sum in there, that's the first line, and then you have other lines that you pay. That first large amount, that 16% of that large amount that Ann was talking about, that's what goes to pay for fire services, and it pays for the other things Ann had on the list for the community police, $2,000.
But not garbage.
Right.
Community center. The garbage is a separate line item on that bill. So it's separate and distinct. So it just goes, it's essentially, some people pay ecology once a month and every quarter. That's just a way of collecting money for ecology to pay tax. So those two things are separate. Is that clear? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions from, you had one, Mel.
Yeah, so we are on a deficit right now of $58,396.
On an annual basis,
On a-
based on 11/12 actuals.
Okay, so, but that's not for last year per se, right? So is this an adjustment that happened due to the drop in the price, the property values?
Well,
Is that
so-
what we're accounting here for, that the drop in, and now we're running a deficit? Would you say that that's the case?
So the revenue that's received from CSA 8 based on property tax revenue
Yeah.
is dependent upon assessed values.
All right.
So I can definitely say that the revenue, yeah, it depends on assessed values and what the properties are doing.
Mhm.
I think now we probably are on more of an upward trend. So your question is specific to the $53,000 or $58,000. That's really taking a look at the revenue and then what's been approved and continues to be approved from year to year in the budget.
Right.
So I think the question, though, is the income less, or in addition to the expenses possibly? We realize the expenses vary based on what's approved, but as the revenues have been also less based on property value decreases, correct?
So you can figure that because the contract with Redwood City is tied to property tax, that dollar value will fluctuate based on property tax.
Mhm.
The other charges have, over time, some have increased. I mean, when I look back at community policing,
Mhm.
that's what you're getting today, I think, is a lot more than what you got years ago when that was originally put into the budget and approved. So to me, that's pointing out a snapshot of fiscal year, and that's part of the picture.
Correct. Now, but we, on the CCA right now, we still have a surplus, I believe, right, from previous years?
So I would call it, so we call it a fund balance, but it's
Yeah.
really like it's like I think of it as a savings account, right?
Right.
So historically, there'd been more property tax revenue collected.
Yeah.
Once you subtract the programs that are paid for, there had been a surplus which had accumulated to come up with the fund balance that's referenced in the report. We have
So,
historical, I
yeah.
mean, if we can, part of it is understanding what it is that you really want to look at. We
Right.
have the historical property tax revenue, but that doesn't, to me, that isn't, you can look at that, we can show you that, but that's maybe not where you need to be deciding what it is that you're looking for in terms of, to be supported by excess property tax revenue.
Well, I'm just looking at, and you alluded to this, that if we want to add other services, obviously based on the incomes that we have now, we couldn't really
Right.
add anything else to be able to pay for those services if we were to add something.
Yeah.
We may have a surplus where we can draw for a one-time type of situation where we may want to pay for, to set up our park or something like that on a one-time
Right,
situation, but not necessarily as a continuous
right.
type of thing that has to be supported yearly. So at this time, I mean, we're, obviously, if we were to continue, getting the same amount of money, we probably, run out of money
Right.
on our surplus. But at this time, obviously, the difference of the deficit is being paid from the surplus,
Right.
I would assume, right? Yeah,
That's it, you're
okay.
grabbing into the fund balance or your savings account.
Right.
And I'm not necessarily recommending additional services, it's just that I have heard that may be something that the council may want to explore. And so I think part of the discussion today was to outline what the actual revenues and expenditures look like in that particular fiscal year, to talk about what the powers are or the services that are provided by CSA 8 now, so that you could all understand that, what have been typical services that have been provided in the past, and then to talk about what process would look like, which is similar to the past, except the LAFCO piece, which has changed a little bit, and that's one of the reasons for the updated report. But so that you could understand that, because I think sometimes you're wondering, if we want to do more, how do we do it? So to lay out what the process or procedure would look like.
Well, okay, so this doesn't really address the process, although we've addressed the process in the past, but it also isn't terribly specific. And one of the things I was curious about, these amounts, for example, so these were actuals. And if I look at this and say, for example, community policing, is that something that it goes from year to year and stays the same? Is it something that needs to get applied for each year? I mean, also, community center, for example, what's the process for looking at the budget and saying, okay, how much are we going to ask for this year? For example, I know we have the festival every year, and we get, the council talks about the festival every year. Is that part of community policing? And if so, again, is that something that gets looked at in the big picture of what funds are available, what revenues are available, and how do we balance everything? Or do these just kind of continue once they've been set up? Or are they all different?
So the community policing piece fits in the CSA budget and also fits in the sheriff's budget. That number has increased. I think that, is it looked at annually? Yes, the board approves it annually. Do I expect that dollar value to increase for 13-14? No, I don't. Is that something that people could look at? I guess for me, I look at that one and I say, well, what do you get for it?
Well, that's why I was
What's-
asking,
right.
for example, if the festival is included in that?
No.
Okay. Oh, so there are some
This is-
things that are paid that aren't on this list.
No, so when we talk about the festival, that, the community festival wasn't necessarily identified in the LAFCO report as an active service. The only work that has been supported by CSA 8 funds in recent years has been the road division putting out the signs and taking them down. So there was a contribution from many years ago that was approved, I think, at the request of the council and the board member, but that was several years ago.
Okay, because each year we are asked to approve 10 to 15,000 for that, and we're told it comes from this fund, so I'm
Right,
a little
it's not
confused.
a specific line item for CSA 8, so I think it's a festival, maybe is something that's supported in part by the sheriff's office. I don't know.
Okay, so they take it out of this then?
Yeah, I would like to know what you get for community policing for, 198.5, and I think that what that specifically pays for is what the sheriff's office can provide you detail on. But their budget is approved.
I just only know they come specifically for a
Sheriff's office
request
is
of
not-
that, so I'm just curious.
Supervisor wants to speak.
Okay.
Yeah, Supervisor wants to speak.
I'm kind of like on the same track, I think, I'm just like, because we only have 1 year here, it's a little confusing. So do these people just, do they give you bills and you pay them, or do they ask for a specific amount and you just give it to them?
So-
If you want an accounting of what happens to that money after you give it to them, then we have to go to them, not to you.
Right, well, so for just walking down that list on the table, the fire protection, we've already talked about what that looks like. That's pretty clear in terms of 32% of the property tax revenue. Community policing, the sheriff's office will bill us essentially, and we do make a payment to them. Go ahead.
I think the important thing to understand, and one of the important things to understand about community policing is it is significantly more expensive to provide police services like North Riverside than $200,000. That's a very small share of the total cost, which is probably somewhere over $1 million. So it is the share they felt that it's based upon some charges that we don't actually have from the sheriff right now.
Mhm.
We're not getting that. It's a small percentage of the total cost.
So- Okay, the supervisor had a comment or a question?
I'm not questioning that they're being overpaid or underpaid, I was just curious how you arrive at that, it's all the way down to like $339. I was just curious. Once a year, they say, okay, we need this amount of money, and give them a lump sum, or is this like bills that get submitted over the years?
The budget is developed every year, so so the budget,
They ask for it in advance, anticipating what they might need?
paid in advance, so.
No, they are.
Yeah, a budget, so it's a request, and then, so, I'm sorry, can we go ahead, because I know you had a comment, maybe it's going to clarify something.
It's not.
Oh,
I'm just wondering if you have the fund balance number in front of you.
no,
Yes.
oh,
What is the fund balance?
So the fund balance that was in this report at the end of 11/12 is $4,135,573. And of that is segregated or separated between the CSA 8 fire, I'm going to call it fire zone area, and garbage. So fire zone has a fund balance of $3,296,621, and CSA 8 had a fund balance of $838,952. It's in the report, yeah.
And so the grand total is
For basically 4.135.
4.1 million.
Yes.
Thank you.
and as I understand, because most of that, I mean, you could continue the direction we're going and use it all up, or we could change what the budget allocates and requests. But if we were to try to even make a one-time expenditure of some of that revenue, or we call the fund balance, it would need to be something that benefits specifically the area from which it was generated.
I
Correct?
think that the services and programs that have been approved in the past by the board have not only been specific to the area where it's been generated, but the entire CSA 8 area.
Okay.
Or even where we sit right now, which is not necessarily in CSA 8.
Right, no, I
But-
understand.
yeah.
Thank you.
Because
Okay.
the board has found that it benefits those that are
Right,
in the area. I
right.
think
But
that's been the
to be of a
finding.
benefit to those.
Right.
Yes, okay. I think we've had quite a number of questions. I think we need to move on. We've got another item on the agenda, which may take some time. And thank you very much, Anne.
Can I just add,
Yes.
I think on some of this, so I think the questions that are still on the table is, for me at least, is of the community policing. I think we still need to ask the sheriff exactly how it is that money actually gets spent. What do we get for that money exactly? So, do they just take this and add it to their general fund, or are these funds used specifically for something? That's what I would like to know. And I think that's something that we can ask the sheriff to come and explain at another time.
But there are documents, budget documents, that get more detail on these items, correct?
We don't, well, they're not, the categories are just one.
Okay.
We have a lot of detail, but I think it's, maybe I'm understanding your question about the money that you pay, the money and the taxes, the money that comes from the CSA 8 must be used in CSA 8. It's money that can't be given to any other part of the county. It has to be used in CSA 8. And it has to be used for those activities that were identified in the LAFCO report now. If you want to use it for something else, then you have to go through a process to get permission to do that.
Right. Well, that's what we were talking
Okay,
about.
so it wouldn't go to the general fund of the sheriff, so the sheriff uses it for something specifically that we actually don't know exactly what that is, so, right, would you say, yeah. I mean, at least I don't know what they use this money for,
So they're using it for community policing in the CSA 8 district office.
Right.
The money doesn't go back to the general fund, it must be used in CSA 8.
And that's listed
Okay.
both colors, gray.
Right, on those activities, and if you want to use it differently, I mean, your options are, the council has a couple of options. They could recommend that the money be redistributed, different money going to different, take that pie of money that you have and give more to the community policing and less to the center, the community center. That's one scenario. The other scenario is if there's something you want to spend this money on, you can petition the board to ask LAFCO to add a category. But what that means is that you have to figure out what you were going to pay for.
Right.
that you don't.
Okay, thank you. I think it's fairly clear. I know we've had this update, and we can take a look at this report, and I assume ask if we have further questions. Ann?
So just
So-
one last piece of information in terms of the timelines on this. The county is going to be adopting our final budget in September of this year. Our timeline is a little bit different, but we're going to be adopting a 2-year budget. So the board will be, so the staff that prepare the budget need to have that document in place probably in early August or July. So if your council wants to make any recommendations to the board in terms of how money might be used differently in the next upcoming budget, fiscal year 13-14, there's recommendations will be made at your next meeting, at your June meeting. Based upon our conversations with LAFCO, it would probably take 6 to 12 months to go through the process to change the categories that you can spend money on.
And are the categories listed in here?
The categories that are here, so what I'm saying is that if you want to reallocate the money, that recommendation can be made to the board this year. If you want to change the categories, it would take longer.
But are the categories listed here, is what I'm asking?
Right, you can use the categories this year.
What category, they're in
They're
here?
the ones that Ann listed.
Oh,
Yeah.
Right.
on the active services list? Oh, those are
Right.
considered your categories right now. Okay, thank you.
If you wanted to add something or reallocate the money to some new activity, that would take probably about a year to go through the process. So it's not something we can change this budget year. It would be a longer term project.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, I'm a little concerned about the time because I know we have one more one more agenda item. Let's move on to the proposal for the German American International School to lease 3515 Edison Way. And I just will say in the beginning that my understanding is this is a proposal. There is not necessarily, it's not a done deal. The school is in the process of determining kind of the sense of the council and the community to be able to even proceed with planning and possibly with their agreement, with their contract. So tell us about this school. I understand they also have a very good track record where the school has been located currently, or is located currently in Menlo Park in a residential neighborhood, and they're looking to implement, if they move into the residential neighborhood on Edison, they're looking to implement similar kinds of practices. Thank you. Go ahead. This is going, shall I introduce Laura Vaughn? You're going to be speaking, and Dominic
Right.
Leite? Leite. Managing Director.
Thank you so much for having us tonight and for the introduction. My name is Laura Vaughn, and I'm a resident of North Fair Oaks. My husband and my 3 sons, we've lived here for 13 years, and we live on 9th Avenue. And we've been a part of the German American International School for almost as long as we've lived in North Fair Oaks, and that's been 10 years. And so we're really excited about one part of the story, and the other part, we're looking at the glass as half full, and that is potential to come here to North Fair Oaks. In terms of what the backstory is we've been in Menlo Park's Willows neighborhood for 20 years, leasing the O'Connor campus. O'Connor is located near the border of East Menlo Park, and essentially it's called O'Connor because it's on Elliott Drive. So we've been a happy tenant there. This year, in the last few months, the Menlo Park City School District has elected to terminate our lease because they'd like to convert the school back to public school. And so we are in desperate need of a new home, a new campus, a new location. And we've been desperately looking to look at all available sites that are available for a school, which is very difficult, as you all can imagine. And so essentially the time frame at which we are needing to find a new home for this school is by next fall of 2014. So as Laura kindly mentioned, Chairperson Kaplan, we are in the process of looking at a site here on 3515 Edison Way. It's 2 to 3 buildings. We have not signed the lease. We're here just as an introduction because we really want to approach this whole aspect as a partnership, which is exactly how we did with the Willows neighborhood. We look, if the school is fortunate enough to come to North Fair Oaks, and we truly believe it would be lucky for us, it would be a true partnership and something we would hope would benefit the community. And so we're here in the spirit of providing as much information as we possibly know at this point. And it's all preliminary because, as you mentioned, we haven't signed the lease. So I just wanted to confirm that information. So again, from a time frame perspective, we're here just to provide you with an overview of the school with Herr Lechte, who is our head director of the school, the site plans, some preliminary ideas about the benefits for North Fair Oaks in terms of what we're thinking and proposing of collaborating, and then just some other ideas, and we're happy to have any questions or discussion as we can at this point. And with the hopes that we will be coming back to future meetings, and with this, it's going to be an ongoing discussion. So with that, I'd like to introduce Herr Lechte. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I just to mobilize myself. Good. Shall I look in the camera or?
Oh, I just didn't know if we could hear
Hello?
you.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Dear council, dear supervisor, welcome. So first of all, thank you very much that I can attend today the meeting and also present about our school, who we are, what our values are, etc., so that you know with whom we would have to deal in the future. And I have different agenda topics for tonight. First of all, I want to give you a brief overview about our core values. You know, what's really important in our school. Then I will go into it, what is unique at the German American National School. And then we go into a little bit detail, so how many students, what kind of classes we have, etc. And then how international are we? It's like we have still the international name in it, so how international are we? I want to show you that. And then the plan about, we have here some schemes up, and I want to go into it with Chi-Wing from DS, an architect that we hired, is here, and he may explain that something as well. And then before we leave for Q&A session, I would like to talk about how we can benefit the North Fair Oaks community. I think that's also an important part when we move to this campus. I didn't print out the slides, but I'm more than happy to provide them online to save some trees. And I'm also, after the meeting, I'm here to respond to any questions and regarding the move, regarding the partnership that Laura was talking about. And just feel free to talk to me after the meeting. I stay here, and then you come to me, and I can explain the plan more in detail, because I go just over it quickly.
So probably we should allow for, I just wanted to make you aware of the time, because we adjourn at 9 p.m., so probably we should allow for maybe 10 or 15 minutes
Sure.
for questions.
Sure, no worries.
And I don't know if we'll need that much, but.
That's good. Then let's go in. So the first thing is, I know it's a little bit due to the light, should be a preschool picture here with the sand day. They call it a sand day. So they're shoveling the sand into the sandbox. And even my son, he's in preschool, he was a part of that day. And I took this picture to illustrate our core values at our school. And the first one is collaboration. You know, here, I think we were working on projects and playing together in the preschool. That's one thing. In the elementary, there are small and large group works. In the IMS, we have peer assessments, reflections, overnight field trips. And we start early to introduce the collaboration piece. Responsibility is the second core value that we have. Taking responsibility for our action and also the consequences. Taking the learning outside the classroom and promoting meaningful actions. For example, in preschool, we have the recycling unit. We talked today about waste management. In the elementary, they have the sustainability unit. In the middle school, they have community service. Being more independent is another topic. The third and fourth value that we have is tolerance and respect. Tolerating different ideas and perspectives, and value different opinions. Reliability. It's walking the talk. As Laura mentioned, we have been almost 22 years at the Menlo O'Connor site, and we incorporated our neighbors into several meetings. So we met them twice a year. For example, we were reliable, we followed up on their concern, we trimmed their trees, so we took care about the campus and the neighborhood around us. But also, being reliable about our educational standards, our high standards that we have. For example, we are part of WASC, the Western Association of California. Another one is honesty. Being transparent. We start today giving you an overview about what our school, transparent what our plan is. Also being principled, following the policies what your community also have and what the county also have. The last one is sincerity, being authentic and not wearing masks. So these are our core values of the school that we incorporate in our daily teaching, also that we try to live and try to promote. Let's go into what's unique at the German-American National School. There are 4 values or value propositions. We have the first one, we have an international community. We have over 42 different nationalities at our school. This is amazing. So we have from all over the place people. You hear different accents. I grew up in Switzerland. You know, you hear in my staff alone, we have like 7 different accents. You know, it's truly amazing what we have there. The second one is we have the IB program. As you know, the IB program is a world-renowned program. It guarantees worldwide transition for our students. So we have the same standards in other private schools around the world. The IB program is also looks at the student, has the student in the center, looks at the holistic picture, not just memorizing content, also applying the content in the context, you know. So they're not just, and we see that in our test results. Worldwide transition, I mentioned that. And lastly, also what's unique is we are the only bilingual, trilingual school in the Bay Area, private school. So why trilingual? Because in the middle school, our students starting in 5th grade, starting to learn Spanish, French as well, aside from German or English. We go into it and what our future plan is also for the school. So these, some impressions. These are actual picture from our school. Short facts. As I said, we are founded 1988, and we have currently 315 students. We have around 80, 90 preschoolers, 140 elementary, and the rest is middle school until grade 8. Our students are going currently to transitioning out to private high schools or public high school around Menlo Park, Palo Alto, Redwood City. So I can provide those information if those information are important. As I said, we're fully accredited by WASC, and we have an average class size of 14 students. The middle school is a little bit higher, it's about 18, depends on the class sizes. And our teachers, as I said, are all over from the place, they're well educated, and have higher degrees as well, so that we can promote those standards what we are for. My next thing is how international are we? I put up a pie chart here that you can see, but we have about 73% international families in our community. We have only 16% Germans family, and then about 10% only English families. How I come to this number, we look at the citizenship. For example, one family has more than one citizenship, then it's counted as an international family. And as I said, 42 different nationalities. The next agenda point is the plan. So what we're actually planning and maybe achieving can help me here. We have here the schemes up. You see on the middle scheme here, you see the 3 buildings at Edison. So the first building, that will be the preschool, because it has access to the fields. There's a field in the front. On the field, we're planning the preschool playground on both sides, between the building and after the building. Then we're planning a tennis court, a basketball court, and then on the right side, a play field, a smaller soccer field. It has a little bit a smaller size. Then in the middle building, we're planning the elementary school. And then in the last building, we're planning the international middle school. We call it international middle school. As you see on the map in the middle, we have also the drop-off zone and the pickup zone are on site. So we would look into that. We go into traffic afterwards. We have around 74 parking spots. Is that correct? Correct. And more than required by code. And on site that we will provide, so we wouldn't use the parkings on the street here. In addition, yeah, that's it about the plans. Then, yeah. In addition, I would like to mention that currently we have the elementary program is only taught in German, also 75% is in German, and 25% is taught in English. We will change that for the future. Because in the middle school we opened 3 years ago this multiply language track so that non-native terms can come in, and that concept works really well. And we want to introduce that to the elementary as well. So we would open up our school also for the community, for Oaks community, plus also for the broader community, so for those who don't take German then as their major language. Although we would still offer then more than one language at the school. Then I would say let's go in quickly to the benefits, and I would like to ask Laura if she can support me in that.
So in terms of, sorry, thank you.
Sure.
We've given a lot of thought about trying to envision the school in this neighborhood and trying to integrate it as part of the community. And I have to admit that I've exercised some liberties in terms of being a neighbor and had a fair bit of input into this. And so certainly this is a work in progress. What Dominic has kindly summarized generally comes from the heart of the school and is from the core values, which I should mention that parents are required to do 15 to 20 hours of community service per year. So this part of a community collaboration comes fairly easily from a school such as that with that mentality. And essentially, I'm sorry about this. What we're hoping to do is bring a benefit to Edison Way in that part of the street. There's a community park in that area. 8th Avenue, 9th Avenue, 11th and 10th all end in that area. And in the last, I'd say 5 years, that part of our neighborhood has really changed and become more beautified, I would say, in terms of green, in terms of the parks. And I'm hoping that the school would fit in with that in terms of beautification to that area. Right now, it's a laundry. There used to be a car repair in there, and this would really change the use of that, which is intended and in line with the North Fair Oaks community plan in terms of mixed use. So it really is a nice complement, we hope, to the plan. And then in terms of what Dominic has mentioned in the sport facilities, Germans love soccer, and that also is a really nice thing for North Fair Oaks because we also have a lot of soccer lovers too. So our hope would be to open up the fields, particularly after school and during weekends, as well as potentially having restrooms, which are closely located to the park, which is Community Park, and tennis court, of course, and whatever facilities. In terms of also the library, we talked with Manuel as well as with Irving about after-school programs and providing teens, particularly at risk, with a place to go to study. That's certainly something we're open to because it's fairly well located relative to Summit and Everest in addition to this area. So it would provide an additional opportunity and option. Also summer camps, after-school programs, all those benefits could be offered. And conference and meeting space, perhaps, as well in the facility.
Thank
Sorry, I
you.
stole your thunder there.
No, it's perfect.
Okay. Do you want to?
Yeah, sure. Traffic mitigation, and Elizabeth, chime in if you need to support. So I want to quickly go over there. I'll try to increase my voice. As you see here, traffic mitigation is going to be a challenge, but we having experience at our school. We have a traffic policy in place already. We're working with the city together. We have to send in 3 times a year a traffic report about what we're doing. We're counting the daily trips coming in and out, and there's a certain limit that the city gave us, and we're complying with that pretty good, and that works pretty nice. And we're doing that ourselves. We have a traffic monitor, etc. So that said, we have experience in that. We know how to deal with that. So since we have also great, as I mentioned, the drop-off and the pickup system with a staggered schedule, with different bell schedules as well, that works perfectly. And aside from the drop-off and pickup zone on site, what we are suggesting and also what we're educating our community then, if we move in here, is that our parents who are coming from 101 here are not are taking Bay Road and taking the 5th up and entering then the Edison. Instead of going to the Fair Oaks Avenue, they should take the Bay Road up 5th and then enter Edison. The same from Middlefield. So we come in from Middlefield. I used to live in Red Village, so I know this area pretty good. Middlefield and then 5th and then Edison. So that's what we try to do, just to avoid that we disturb the neighborhoods and the small streets. That's one thing. We have in addition. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Okay, that's good. So we have a few other mitigation projects. Good. That would be my presentation, but are there any questions? Concerns and suggestions?
Well, I appreciate, I have heard this before, I will say, and I appreciate the fact that you have a track record in the previous residential community and that you are proactively addressing the issues of traffic mitigation and that you are not proposing something where there's inadequate parking, because both traffic and parking have been big issues in our area. So I appreciate the fact that this plan looks at both of those in a positive way. And also I appreciate the community involvement proposals and the offer to, I would think that if this were to be, and we're talking about it needing to go through some kind of planning process, so there would need to be some decisions made about it. But I would, and this is not something, of course, the council can do anything about. Even if we wanted to make a recommendation, we don't even have a quorum, so it's not a discussion for us tonight. It's just getting information, getting that information out to the community about your intention, which, again, I appreciate the fact that you're looking to collaborate early and involve us in the process. And I was just going to say that if it comes to this and you are looking to get more final in the process, I would like to see some of the things you talked about outlined as, you know, in terms of the community involvement and the wonderful things that you suggested about letting the community utilize the facilities, those kinds of things, and participating.
Sure.
So I appreciate that as a resident of that community.
Sure.
Are there any questions or comments from?
I'll just keep it brief. You know, I like everything that you proposed so far. So, and I think it would definitely fit well with the plan for North Fair Oaks. So far, you know, I'm liking what you are proposing.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate the school and everything you've presented too. So thank you very much. We do have, sorry to rush you, but we do
Sure.
have one
No.
more item on the
No worries.
agenda. I was kind of overlooking that for a few minutes there. We do have now an update on the North Fair Oaks Clinic. Jonathan Messenger from the San Mateo Medical Center.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for remembering. So this is in keeping with the beautification of the neighborhood. We're building this 3-story clinic building, which will be the largest building in the area. It was designed by Steve Mincy's group at DES, and we've worked closely with them to make sure that it has all of the things that we think the people in this area need. I should say that we're combining 3 clinics that currently exist for San Mateo Medical Center, the Willow Clinic in Menlo Park, and the Fair Oaks Adult and the Fair Oaks Children's Clinic here. We needed to get out of all 3 of those places quickly, and this was our great solution. We worked closely with our property owner at Fair Oaks, who was actually building this for us. And we're not using county general fund money to build this clinic. This is a 30-year lease, and we were very fortunate to make this arrangement with the landowner for this property. We've been at this site for a long time, and we wanted to stay in the area. We looked at sites all over the area, but we really understood that our patients generally walk to the clinic. It'll be a challenge for Willow patients because they're going to have to go about 3 miles from where they currently go. But we're working out transportation, and an example of that is that Samtrans has already agreed to double the frequency of the 296 bus, which is the bus that connects East Palo Alto with Redwood City, and that's very fortunate for us. We've been involved in every aspect of planning of this clinic. We will have 108 county employees working there, and we will serve about 350 people a day. We expect 19,000 people, 19,000 individuals to be served by this clinic every year in about 70,000 visits, which is about a third of all the visits that San Mateo Medical Center has throughout the county. We will provide adult primary care, pediatric primary care, an OBGYN clinic, an 8-chair dental clinic, which will be a beautiful thing, an optometry clinic, a chronic disease management program for diabetes, which we currently have and will expand, and embedded mental health services for both children and adults. In addition, there's going to be a pharmacy. This neighborhood doesn't really have a lot going on when it comes to pharmacies, unless you're a Costco member. So this will be a great thing. It'll be a commercial pharmacy. It looks like the pharmacy will be run by Safeway, because we put it out to bid and they were successful. I think that's the first time that's being publicly said, but that just happened. And we will have a WIC program office in the building. We will have laboratory services, POCT, which means point of care testing. Community meeting rooms, 2 large spaces, multi-purpose rooms like this that the community will be able to use and have access to from outside. We're going to be developing a community mural on part of the building. Steve, do you know about this? I don't know if you know about this. An extension wall that goes off from the side of the building will have about a 14 by 10 foot, very colorful, culturally appropriate mural, which will be professionally done, but conceived and designed and painted by community members, not only from North Fair Oaks, but also from Menlo Park and East Palo Alto, who will be served by this building. It's kind of a funny thing because the building is part of their neighborhood. It's a North Fair Oaks building, but it serves a larger area, and we have to be sensitive to that. And we will have a patient health library, which we're very proud of, which will have computer access for patients so they can learn about health issues, and a public health educator will be staffing that, so there'll be a lot of information for patients. I have a lot of pictures here that I had a PowerPoint presentation, but I don't have the equipment, so I will say that if you can visualize it, if you've passed by right where the railroad tracks cross Middlefield, that's where my current clinic is, Fair Oaks, and if you look behind it, you'll see this thing rising up, which is quite obvious. It's bigger than anything, and we're very proud of it. It's moving very quickly. In December, there was nothing there but dirt, and by November 4th, the patients will be in the building. And it's an amazing, fast process that Turner Construction is doing for us and for our landlord. And we're working very closely with them. We meet with them constantly. Right now, parking is an issue because of construction. It's very difficult for our patients, and they're being very patient with us. But we will have 172 parking spaces when we're finished, which is not exactly in keeping with the North Fair Oaks community plan, which kind of says, let's reduce parking so people use their bikes and buses, but we had to do that, and it'll be nicely landscaped, and we hope that people won't see it as a problem, but rather as an advantage for the neighborhood. We think that this building is actually the beginning or a stimulus for more beautification of the neighborhood. It's going to be a gorgeous thing, and we hope it'll stimulate more of this kind of activity in the neighborhood. And so we're very proud of it, and I'll answer any questions that you might have. Yes?
Sounds wonderful. The only thing I think of is it's hell to get into that area.
Yes.
And get out of it. What is happening with respect to that?
So Supervisor Slocum's colleague, Adrian Tissier, on the board, convened a meeting, and we were able to actually bring Samtrans to the table, which runs the Dumbarton rail line, the DPW and the planning department and our construction company, to think about how we can mitigate the problem. It's a driveway. It's not considered an intersection because it's a driveway. We are going to be increasing the traffic there, and right now we're trying to come up with solutions, and we think that there may be some mitigation both in the street and on the property and with the rail line. So we're working on kind of all three aspects of that. So I can't say we have a solution yet, but there are a lot of people putting their heads together on this, and we're hoping that if not by the time we open, then shortly after we will have at least some of those areas fixed. If nothing else, smoothing out where the railroad tracks cross the sidewalk, because the first thing that Adrian noticed was she came for the groundbreaking and she saw women with their strollers really struggling to get to the clinic. So at least that part, I think, is going to be taken care of immediately. And then pedestrian crossings and lights and other things that will help with the traffic will come later. But we are working on that, definitely.
And you're saying you will have adequate parking?
Oh, we're going to have plenty of parking
You're going to, do you have any left over you can maybe use for the rest of the?
for a price. No, I'm just kidding. Undoubtedly, I mean, it's, especially on the weekends, it'll be empty. But we will have Saturday morning clinics and some evening clinics, but a lot of times we won't be using it. And there's no gate or anything, but we are hoping that we will probably have signs up that say that at least during the times that we're open, we need that space for our patients and our staff, because we will need a lot of that space. Yes, one more question.
About parking, at one of the meetings that was held just recently, there was a guy called Peter Barton, and I forget the name of the company, but he had an absolutely fascinating way of parking cars, and it was like a dry cleaners, they
Right.
stacked them.
Right, stacking, yes. So we haven't explored that. We haven't needed to explore that because we had adequate space for our parking lot. In the future, if we feel that we have, to expand the space, we might have to think about moving upward or downward. But at this point, we're just on the surface. Yeah, I've seen that solution being used. We weren't really hurting for space when it came to parking, so we're quite okay. The Fair Oaks Clinic, the existing clinic, will be torn down the day that we move into the new building, and that's where the parking lot will be.
Well, I always like to hear about projects that have plenty of parking, and
Yes.
as a former health educator, I was so pleased to hear you're going to be
yeah.
hiring one.
Yeah, we have her already, actually. She's already working, and she's already planning this wonderful library for patients.
Great. Well, it sounds like a wonderful
Great.
addition to the
So thanks a lot for
community.
letting me speak.
All
to
right.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks. That was my concern, because on a previous meeting, the concern that we heard about was the mitigation of that entrance
Yes.
that would create problems.
Yeah.
So I wanted to hear more about that.
Yes, actually,
so-
DPW just, the health department, the health system is going to pay for a new traffic study, because DPW asked for that study in order to get advice from a professional about the mitigation of that intersection. And that's going to happen very soon.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, I have one announcement, and that is about the date of next month's meeting, which is going to be just as we did this month. We're going to have the main meeting on the fourth Thursday of the month, which I think is on the, is it on here, on June 27th, but I just wanted to point that out because in the past, we've had meetings on the third Thursday. So our meeting in June will be the fourth Thursday, and we will have a North Fair Oaks Council study session on the previous Thursday, June 20th. And with that, unless there are any other really urgent items, I will adjourn the
Yeah.
meeting.
Thank you.
So it's 9 o'clock. We are adjourned.